Whenever I'm asked who my favorite turtle is, I always say that it's April O'Neil. Ever since I first saw her in the early 80s, I liked her Amy Irving hair and the Jennifer Beal eyes. This has always been my favorite depiction of her by Eastman and Laird. Did issue number 11. But before I get to this, I wanted to highlight this book here. It's The Last Ronin, Lost Day Special, which came out earlier this year. It takes place 10 years after Michelangelo and April and the others have liberated the city from Shredder. And it's also 10 years after the death of Michelangelo and all the other turtles. Splinter and also Casey Jones. And what this issue is that April is keeping a journal. She's now in her mid-60s. She's got a daughter, the daughter of her and Casey, and the name of the daughter is Casey Marie, named after her father. There she is there. And she's going out on a date. And what I like about this is that Eastman draws these particular panels here of April and the old style, the old Mirage style. At one point, you meet one of the young turtles, because there's a new line of turtles, a new batch. Comes across Donatello's old mixtapes, cassettes, and there's music by Devo and Thomas Dolby, Rush, Joy Division, and Nine Inch Nails. She begins to keep this journal, which is almost like a memoir of her original family, particularly her mother, and her new family when she was very young, the Turtles. What you have here is when, in the aftermath of the battles, when everyone else has died, including her husband, Casey. She's pregnant with a child. And then she takes on the fight. And as we know, Michelangelo will return after years of exile and sacrifice his life to save the city. Which brings us to this issue here. She's keeping a journal, which is basically a memoir. However, she began to keep a journal shortly after she met the Turtles. This issue takes place after Shredder and the Foot Clan have destroyed her home, the apartment that she lives in, where the Turtles were hiding. Leonardo is nearly killed. And now they are in exile in Casey's grandmother's home. This is her new family now, and she's trying to get acquainted with it. And she begins to keep this journal, which is dated January 15th, 1987. These are her early meetings with her future husband, Casey. When they leave the city, when they arrive in the city they're going to be living in for a little while, Casey's grandmother's home. And then we get portraits of the Turtles early on. Like I mentioned earlier, Leo in the previous issue was nearly killed. Spiritually and physically, he's not in good shape, especially spiritually. He needs to get his confidence back. And she's making observations of these strange creatures. In the previous issue, he was badly hurt, like I mentioned, and he tells her, "This is not your fight, April. Shredder and them are not after you." But she stays by him. She won't leave him. And here we see the engineer of the group, Donatello, trying to provide electricity and running water for where they're staying. And also he begins to write. And he seems to be not satisfied with his work, as you can see, just like Donatello would be. And now we get to Michelangelo, who's no longer joking around. And she's worried about him, because he's no longer the gracious and happy-go-lucky Michelangelo that she knew, although she just knows him very briefly. He's very angry. And as we know from the last Ronin, he'll be the last survivor and the one that will save the city. Finally, we get Raphael, just like the Sentinel, keeping watch. He's not getting any sleep, though. And we have Casey. And she talks about how in Brooklyn, she had never met anybody quite like this guy. He's very unique. Not knowing that this is man she's going to fall in love with. And here she's chronicling the relationship that he has with Raphael. Rather comical. The story comes to the climax when she goes for a walk, falls through the ice, and it's Leo who saves her. Just like she stood by him when he was hurt in the earlier issue. He saves her life. And here she is. I like this page here. And it's dated May 1987. Talking about her new friends that she cares about. She'll always be there for them. And she says life is good and life goes on. And this is her last entry in this journal. Which she doesn't presumably, until here. In her mid-60s, in the twilight of her life. Spring and fall. April O'Neil. Thank you for viewing.